For those of y'all that may not have picked up this brochure, you might want to grab one up front. So in case you get back to your system and you begin actually conducting the inventory and you might need some on-site assistance, that's why TC has this Financial Manager Technical Assistance Program. So we can actually come out on site and assist you as well. And these brochures, again, is available right where you checked in at. So the initiative behind this whole process was started by Congress. I tend to move, so I guess I have to stay here today. It's called Get the Lead Out. That's the name of the initiative that Congress created, passed it on to EPA. EPA sent it out to the states. So the idea behind it is that in order to get the lead out, we have to first identify where the lead is, hence the inventory. So that's why we're doing the inventory. What TCEQ has done is created an actual Excel template, and this is the tool you will use to actually enter in your lead inventory information and submit that to via email, in most cases, to TCEQ. So this is the actual template we're going to walk through. You can download the template at the website, the TRWA website where you registered. You can download it from the TCEQ website, which we'll be showing you later on today. And then you'll want to download it and then actually enter your information directly into this template. This is the form number. If you actually go to TCEQ website and you're going to do a search in the upper right corner of the website, the home page, you'll put in that form number 20943, and that'll also take you to the template and you can download it to your computer. One caveat or suggestion there is that once you download it, especially if you're using Windows, I'm not sure how Mac or Apple works, but for Windows, when you download it, it's going to download it to your download folder. And so you need to go ahead and save it somewhere in your computer so you can find it again when you need to. Maybe relabel it with your PWS ID number, put it on the desktop, somewhere where you can find it easily. But if you just download it and leave it and then start working on it, it's going to be in your download folder. This is the actually inventory and planning development process. So this is where we are now. Let's see if I can get this pointer. There we go. We're right here now. So you're gathering data and building your inventory. And then based on that records research that Elston talked about, then you can do some additional investigation. Based on the investigation, you're going to update your inventory and just continuously improve as you go out and find more information, whether through main breaks or meter reading. You can constantly update your inventory. So in the initial inventory, what TCEQ is looking for is what you know, not necessarily requesting or requiring you to go out and excavate to actually find what the pipe material is. Again, the purpose of the template is, again, for community and non-transit, non-community. Are there any transit systems in the house? Who know what I mean by a transit system? How many of y'all stopped by a Buc-ee's, standalone Buc-ee's along the highway before? Those are usually transit systems, meaning you got different people coming and going every day. Non-transit, a lot of times, or your individual businesses, they have the same employees coming every day. So this is particular requirements for community systems and non-transit. So any transit system that are out there, this is not a requirement for them. A TCEQ website right here, lcrr@tceq.texas.gov for questions or contact information, as well as the telephone number 512-239-4691, which actually rings into the drinking water section receptionist. So when they answer the phone, you have to tell them you want to speak to the lead copper team. If you, by chance, have a file that is over 25 megabytes, and that may be the city of Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, and so forth, then there'll be a FTP site to upload your template. Everyone else will be able to email it to TCEQ at that email address. Okay? And that's the information about the FMT assistance program we spoke about. Again, that's who is required. When is the due date? October 16, 2024. So you obviously want to do it, before then, at least around October 1st, so that, or maybe September so that if you have any issues with uploading or file transfer, anything like that, you have time to correct it. After that, it'll be updated annually or triannually, depending on your current lead copper sample tap sampling schedule that you already have. Some systems are every 3 years, some systems are every year, but whatever your current schedule is, you update your inventory at the same time your sampling schedule. How the template is organized. So you have, it's all color-coded to make it easy for us. So you have your yellow worksheets. So anything in yellow on the template is just instructions and background material. Nothing for you to do there other than just read it, familiarize yourself with it. The dark blue are templates for the system. So you would put in system information, contact information, telephone number, population, connections count, et cetera. And then in the cells in the template itself, the gray cells are background as well as instructions. Light blue cells are fillable cells for the system. So this is the color you want to focus on. Light blue cells for system information, and then the most important color is the aqua cells, kind of bluish, are required. So those are required fields. You want to make sure, if nothing else, those are completed. And we'll look at them in a minute. So this is what the template looks like when you download it. You have your background information, information about the system. And this is repeats what I said earlier. Save a copy of the workbook to your hard drive or network drive, wherever you want to save it. It's a good idea to put your system ID number in that file name. So again, when you send it to TCEQ, everything is tracked by the PWS ID number. So that's already in the file name. And it will be the initial inventory for everyone doing their first time. Once you submit it to TCEQ and you change it, then you could have it update 1, update 2, and so forth. Complete your PWS information, inventory methods, inventory summary, public accessibility documentation, and certification worksheets. These are all the tabs. So if you're familiar with Excel, when you open it, you have all these tabs at the bottom. For most people, that's how it's structured, unless you've gone in and changed it. But for most people, it's going to be at the bottom. So these will be the tabs you're going to have, and they're going to, as you work through the template, you'll come to all these tabs. Are you going to have a detailed inventory worksheet in the workbook? That's where you're going to organize the information on your service line material. And then at the very end, you're going to certify that the information is true and accurate to the best of your information. And then once you have completed all components, especially the aqua blue cells, you can then actually electronically email the template to TCEQ. Unless you're above the 25 megabytes, then you'll go with the FTP upload. Question for the group: is it okay to put unknown? I see some heads saying no. So the answer is, if you don't know, it is perfectly acceptable and encouraged to put unknown on your initial inventory. Later on, as you get more information, remember that circle, we're constantly updating and improving it. As you get more information on a particular pipe material, you go out and you verify that, oh yeah, this is actually PVC. So now we can change it from unknown to non-lead. Or if you confirm that it is lead, you can change it to lead. But if you don't know, they don't want you to guess, just put unknown. That's perfectly fine. So here's the first tab, the PWS information, public water system information, water system name, ID number, population served. And this may be different than what's in TCEQ Drinking Water Watch, because in most of Texas, the population is growing, so what's in the database may be less than what you actually have in a number of connections. You want to make sure you're using the TCEQ PWS ID number for your system here, who the contact person is, and then who is the person that actually prepared the template, the primary person. So if TCEQ needs to reach out to the water system about something in the template, they want to actually speak with the person that actually completed it. Your system contact person could be the same person in drinking water watch as your administrative contact. And again, sometimes that changes. Sometimes they may have a mayor there. You get a new mayor elected, that person's gone, or the system's been bought out. So just make sure it's a senior person. So again, part one is a historical records review. Jason's going to be coming up talking more about those type of records, but you have a lot of records in your water system already that can help you do the inventory portion. You got your distribution system map, tap records, construction records, those things are all records that you can have for that reason. But as a records review is what you're being asked to do for the initial inventory. Your construction records, plumbing records, water system records, distribution system and inspection records, tap cards, meter installation records. One of the things you can do as well is whoever does your meter reading, if you still have the physical meter readings, as opposed to the AMI or AMR, where somebody actually opens the meter box and look in it, whatever card they're writing that on, you can modify that. If they, whether it's a work order card or a meter route, you can modify that so that they can capture that data while they're reading the meter. They got to open it up and look at it anyway. They can see if they can look at the end pipe and the pipe going to the connection, whether it be a house or a commercial building. So they can help you start gathering that data right now. And that is a record. So you can use that record as well. Same thing with your work orders. You're going out to do some sort of water line repair, and it may be involving some service lines. Again, you can modify that work order form so who's ever out there on the job site, they can capture that data for you as well as take photographs. So you want to check each box. Try not to leave it blank unless it absolutely doesn't apply to you. But what method, normal operating activities, the system collects service line material information. So during your normal operating activities, you can be collecting various service line information as well. How often do you update your distribution system map? Not often. That's another good record source. Also, what you're going to see in the template is drop-down menus. So y'all probably familiar with those. A lot of templates and software use them. So you'll see the little arrow pointing down. You pull that arrow down, and then you can select that option that best fits what you're doing. Service line investigations, check each box that indicates the investigated method that you used. So again, it'd be a drop-down menu for you as well. If none of those items fit what you did, then go with other. Predictive modeling, can you use predictive modeling? So predictive modeling is a process where you can say, this section of our water system, this subdivision, new area that was constructed on such and such a date, say let's give it 1972. But not all of the connections were made at that time. And you can go out and do some spot checks on the pipe material by, again, using the meter box and so forth. And then based on those samples you did, those representative locations, you can predict for the entire subdivision that it's non-lead because everyone else was non-lead and it was all constructed at the same time. Here's a good screenshot of the actual template. So you'll be selecting here, yes or no, yes or no. They actually done a really good job to make this process a lot easier than what it would be if you had to go out and gather this data. So you're selecting yes or no to these various options in your service line investigation. Did you do a visual inspection at the meter pit? Yes or no. Did you do water quality sampling? Yes or no. So you're just telling TCEQ by answering these various questions how you gather the information. What records did you use by selecting the proper one? Yes, question at the front. While he's bringing the mic, for those who don't know, TCEQ has a YouTube web channel. So yeah, you can go there and get a lot of information about what's going on in TCEQ by adding that to your YouTube inventory. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, just a quick question on the inventory.
Hold the mic up a little bit.
For predictive modeling.
Yeah.
What would be a good sampling rate? It's like you got 100 connections. What would be a good sample for that model?
So his question is, if you're using predictive modeling, what is a good number of representative samples to say that this represents it? I think that's going to be a moving target because it's going to be based on your distribution system. And so you could have different planes in that same predicted area. Anybody else have anything else to add to that in terms of what would be a good number of representative samples to use for predictive modeling? I hadn't heard any required number. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, so predictive modeling is going to be approved on a case-by-case basis. It's on the water system to prove to us what you are using, what parameters you're using, and present that to the TCEQ for approval or not approval. So there's, like Phillip said, it's a moving target, and it's just the supporting documentation that you provide to us for us to review. It would need to be pre-approved if you are actually determining the material classification of any service lines. We haven't gotten an answer from EPA on what's the minimum requirement for, non-lead for predictive modeling. But yeah, we can't just outright approve all predictive modeling. You can definitely use predictive modeling to determine if, an area is likely lead or likely non-lead, but you cannot prove a negative with predictive modeling.
So the follow-up question was, if you're going to use predictive modeling, does it have to be pre-approved by TCEQ? And the answer is yes. And so that email address we showed earlier for the lead copper rule team, that's where you want to email that and start. If you think you're going to be using predictive modeling, go ahead and reach out to them now and start conversing with them on getting the parameters. You probably have to get your engineer maybe involved, and so that TCEQ can prove whatever system, how you're going to implement it ahead of time so you don't have to do double work, and then you can go ahead and apply it. Quick comment?
And just a last point of in that the record review is required for everyone. You cannot get out of that. We're really going to push for record review before anything else.
Right. Records, records, records. It's probably good. We can find some of those records that we need to be looking at anyway. Okay, identifying the service line when ownership is split. So what we're looking at is this little dash line right here. That represents the property line. So this is the public side, whether it be in the right-of-way or system-owned. You got your water main, in this case underneath the street. It's not good for main breaks, but that's where it's at here. And then you got your sidewalk, and then you got your meter box. So all of that, especially in Texas for the most part, is system-owned. And then it crosses the property line. Now you're getting into the customer or property owner owns this line. And the service line is from the main all the way to the entry point into the home. Wherever, not necessarily inside the house, but where that line connects to go into the building. That's the service line. So you have to determine, does anyone here have a situation where the PWS owns the service line up to the property line, and then the property owner owns the service line from the property line there? Anyone in here has that situation? I think this is the case in most of Texas. So if you're in Texas, you probably have this situation. There may be some exceptions out there, but PWS responsibilities, homeowner responsibility. That's going to be important later on because of some of the funding requirements when it comes to replacing lead lines. In order to get credit, you have to replace the entire line, not just the PWS side. Galvanized, so you have lead, of course, we all know what that is. If the service line is made of lead, And then you have GRR, you're going to hear that a lot, galvanized requiring replacement. So if you had a galvanized pipe and it was ever downstream of lead, is currently or ever was, then that's called galvanized requiring replacement. The concept here is that some lead could have leached out at some point when it went downstream and then actually settled into the galvanized pipe. So it may be lead in that galvanized pipe, even though it's not a lead pipe. That makes sense? So that's why if you have a galvanized requiring replacement line, like I said, it was currently or ever was downstream of a lead service line, then it's going to be galvanized requiring replacement. Non-lead, that's the easy one, primarily PVC in Texas. And then lead status unknown. So again, it is okay. If you don't know whether it's not 1, 2, or 3, then you can put unknown. Later on, after you submit your inventory, that's going to lead you to a replacement plan. That's where you can go back and get more information as to identify what these unknowns are. So during your replacement plan, you will identify physically some sort of confirming way that that is what the pipe material is for that particular unknown. Okay, so let me ask that question again. Is it okay to put unknown? I got heads shaking yes this time, so good. So we got that point. So again, this is just your initial inventory. This is not a one-time thing. You're going to be updating it again, either annually or every 3 years based on your current lead sampling schedule. So at some point, if you have unknown, you're going to take measures to find out for sure what it is and then update the inventory. Look at your records, do a visual inspection, and then list what you can identify. This is the classification of your service line. So again, you're going to go through and list each service line. How many of y'all have GIS? Not many. Okay, a few. So GIS has a way, depending on yours, to export that data based on the service lines at the service location into the template. Also, depending on what building software you have, you can get with whoever runs the software or the software manufacturer, but you can actually set it up where you can export your building addresses directly from the building software into an Excel file and then play with it a little bit and import it into here, as opposed to manually entering every service line. So those are some ideas to keep in mind. But for each one, you're going to identify if it's lead, non-lead, galvanized requiring replacement, galvanized, or unknown. For each one, so you have the system-owned portion you're going to identify, the customer-owned portion, and then that's going to generate a classification for that particular line. So if they're both are lead, obviously that's lead. If it's lead, galvanized, lead. Lead and non-lead, lead. Lead status unknown, lead. So you can see the pattern here. If any one of these have lead, then the line is classified as lead. So you could have a system-on portion of the service line that's non-lead, plastic, and you can have a customer-owned that is lead, that's a lead pipe. Okay? And you just continue down. So you'll select this for each service line, and then it'll give you a selection over here what the final is. Was that good? Is that clear? Okay, good. Again, this will be your initial inventory, who owns the service line, so it'll be select the ownership type. Is there documentation that defines service line ownership? So you have local ordinances. That's typically going to be only cities. Typically, you're going to have ordinances. Water Supply Corporation, you have your rules and regulations which may identify that. District's going to have a rate order where that may be identified, policies and procedures, investor-owned utilities, but some local document that defines who owns the service line. If you don't have that, then we encourage you to go ahead and get that created for your system to identify who owns the service line. The PWS owns it up to the property line, and the property owner owns it from the property line to the building, something to that effect. Describe when lead service line were generally installed in your system below. So it might have been the year, 1984 that Texas did it? 88? Okay. Yeah, so I think the national was 86 and then Texas was 88. So if it might have been built before then, so you can check when that was. When were service lines banned for your system? Again, you're going to go back to your system records. It could be a ordinance or a order, a policy, something in writing that says that we are banning the use of lead in our public water system. Cities are probably going to be a plumbing ordinance. Are there any lead gooseneck, pigtails, or connections in your system? Yes, no, or don't know. FYI, currently the position under the current rule for the inventory purpose, goosenecks, pigtails, or connections that may be on as part of the PWS line are not considered lead, a lead service line. So if you have that in your system, don't count that as a lead service line if it's a PVC pipe before it. Okay. Location information, this is where you're going to put preferably a street or 911 address to locate where the service line is. I do know in some of the rural areas, even though we have a requirement for 911, there are still some locations that don't have a 911 address. So you can put in other identifying information such as latitude and longitude, right here. Again, the aqua cells is what required. You can put additional information in these light blue cells if you want to help TCEQ identify where this particular service line is located. But if they don't have a 911 address, now is a good time to get one. So I think that was 5 years ago, maybe more. Okay. Detailed information on the system-owned portion, did that change? No, it did not. Okay. Customer-owned portion, same thing. So this is the same, it's shown on two different slides, but on your template, it's actually one screen. So you're just continuing down it, filling in the aqua blue cells right here for the customer-owned portion, what's the material made of, any other information you want to add. And then this one, again, material, and then additional information. So these first two are the two that's required in the aqua color. Continues. The inventory summary table. So this is going to be populated for you based on what you put in the previous slide for each service line. And this should add up. So in this case, they had 4 lead lines that they confirmed, 2 galvanized requiring replacement. So they had galvanized pipe that's currently or was at some point downstream of a lead line. They had 3 non-lead and 0 unknown. And so they have a total of 9. So they see that here they got 5 that's going to have to require some replacement at some point, and they got 4 that it was a unknown, 0 unknown. So they got lead that's got to be replaced, galvanized got to be replaced, so a total of 6 that they're going to have to go back and replace the line on. So this is where they're going to help them come out with the funding information. They got to fund the replacement of 6. Now, of course, in a lot of systems, that's maybe 400 or something, but that's the idea. The public accessibility. So here you have to make the inventory publicly available, including a location identifier for lead service lines and galvanized requiring replacement. Some of y'all said y'all have GIS, so you can make this publicly available on your website. And on that website, you can put a map that shows if you had some actual lead service line, you could put some sort of key code in there to identify these are where the lead service lines are located. If you have more than 50,000 people in your system, then you must make the inventory available online. Less than 50,000, make it available upon request. So if somebody comes in, which is already the rule, if you under the Texas Open Records or Public Information Act, they can request that now. Service line connection notification. So 30 days after completing the initial inventory and repeated annually until there's no lead remains. So you have to notify the customers at a location where you identified a lead service line. You have to notify them that they do have a lead at that location, and then you do it every time you do your repeated inventory, you must notify the customer. And also, like Elston, I think, mentioned that if you're at that location and going to be doing some sort of construction work that may disturb the line, you have to also notify the customer. The confirmed lead service lines right here must include opportunities to replace the lead service line in any available financing programs and statement that system must replace its portion if the property owners notify the system they are replacing their portion. So if the property owner notifies the system, we thank you for letting us know we have a lead service line, we're going to replace the system must replace theirs as well. And they're going to go into more detail on the potential funding on that this afternoon, after the break. How do you know about it? By mail or other method approved by the state. Is email approved in terms of notification?
I think it's going to depend on what public notification we're talking about.
Okay.
And again, this more detail on public notification will be in the lead and copper rule improvements.
All right, okay.
But direct delivery, a good faith effort for direct delivery to all consumers is generally accepted.
Okay. So snail mail on that would be the best option. Public accessibility documentation. So you have to document in the template that you made the information accessible to the public. So you put in the address, select the location identifier that you use, again, yes or no, the street, GPS coordinates, and then any other location identifier that you may come up with other than these three, you can put that in. Does every service line have location identifier? If no, explain. So hopefully that'll be yes, but they all have a 911 address. If for some reason some service line does not, then you explain in this light blue section why not. How is the inventory made publicly accessible? Check all that apply. So you're not limited to one answer here. You can check all that apply. Remember, if you have over 50,000, greater than 50,000 population, then you must provide the inventory online. So you got an interactive online map, yes or no, static online map, yes or no, online spreadsheet, printed service line map, they can come in the office and look at, a printed tablet of data, information on the water utility mailing or newsletter, hard copy information available in the water system office, and then again, if there's something else, you can just print it, fill in down here, type it in down here, what the other is. And then at the end, you must certify that all information is true or else it is administratively incomplete. So if you skip this section, you don't do the certification, your template won't be accepted. Once you submit the template, you email it out to TCEQ. You have 30 days to provide public notice to all customers with lead service lines. Not all customers, just the customers with lead service line or galvanized requiring replacement, which is also lead. Okay? Or unknowns. So you have to notify the customer. And this is the certification section you will complete. Make sure you enter your name down here. This talks about tips on importing from GIS systems, So for people that's going to be using that, check out these links. If you're going to be importing it from GIS, if you can, that's great. Okay. Is there anything before the break that I might be missing, Jason?
I believe we had a few questions online.
Oh, questions online. Okay.
I had a few questions from the chat. For clarification on standalone eye wash and shower stations that are not enclosed in buildings, would the water lines that feed stations be included?
The definition of a service line from the water main to the building inlet, so it would be, it's outside of the building?
Yeah, it's not enclosed in a building is what they're saying.
Then I would say yes, it is considered a service line and should be included. This could
Okay.
also include irrigation lines that could be converted into drinking water service lines.
So, for example, at a lot of the wastewater treatment facilities, they have a shower station or eye wash outside of the building. You got a line coming into the plant inside the building that's available, bathrooms and what have you. So I think what they're asking about, or one example could be, is that shower station or that eye wash that's outside of the building, is that a service line? It's a part of interior plumbing.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to see
Yeah.
a map. Yeah, that's a really good question.
And then there are a lot of, especially along the Gulf Coast, the fishing villages and
Yeah.
fishing areas, they have separate fish cleaning stations where there is a separate line.
Right.
You have one line going to the house and another line going to that fish cleaning station. So in my mind, that'll be two service lines for that one property address.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that question. After the break, I'll
Okay.
consult with my supervisor and maybe provide a better answer after the
Okay.
break.
I know that question.
The other
Okay.
question.
We have another question here. Timing to communicate that a service line is lead is 30 days and must be reported annually with the update of the inventory. If the inventory is only due triannually, does that change to triannually?
So I think the question is the initial notification of a service line being lead, GRR, or unknown. The system is required to notify the specific customer within 30 days of submitting the inventory. On regular submission, I know the actual inventory information needs to be submitted on an annual or triennial basis, but on the public notice, I'll need to get back to y'all on that.
Should we move on to the next question? Okay. Let's see here. When you're talking about the customer replacing their lines, does that include inside the house or just the service line?
Just the service line only. So where that service line connects to the building line, that's where it stops. So interior does not include it as part of the service line.
Yes, that's correct. And to the second question on re-notification of the existence of lead, GRR, or unknown, per Code of Federal Regulations 14185E, it is annually until the entire service line is no longer lead, GRR, or lead. And then for any new customers, the notice must be provided at the time of service initiation.
Good.
Okay. And we have one more question here. When you say they are going to have to replace a service line, who is they if the entire system is PVC, but private service line does not show evidence of lead? Does show evidence of lead.
Yeah, so public water systems are responsible for making sure that any lead service lines are removed. They're not necessarily financially responsible for that service line being removed. There are funding options, but ultimately it is the PWS's responsibility to get that lead out of the ground.
Because remember, the objective of the whole
so here's
program is to get the
Here's a good
lead
question.
out.
We have an answer for that. Yeah, so his question in front of me here was how do you force a private private customer to remove their lead. If they are resistant to it, the LCRR is requiring a written notification that the customer has denied that service. And so we would accept that and process that.
So documentation of that?
Right.